Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Justice League Unlimited issue 9 by Mark Waid, Dan Mora and Tamara Bonvillain. In the aftermath of We Are Yesterday, which saw multiple time and universe displaced heroes stuck in the present day DCU, everything is in chaos because of the rampant Omega energy left by Grodd. As a younger version of Harley Quinn tries to attack Green Lantern but is zapped away by the chronal time fractures, Green Lantern knows that time is trying to repair itself, hence why Harley was zapped away. Hal meets with Arbin Sur, who wants to return to his own time, figuring the heroes of this time would have a way for them to do that, but Hal, knowing what becomes of Arbin, doesn't think he should be too hasty to return to his own time. I kinda like how simple Mark put this explanation. That might change a little later on in the issue, but I like that it's just very simple, that the timeline is fractured and all of the shards are kind of mixing together and, you know, nothing kind of fits together and it's slowly trying to heal itself and it's not doing it correctly or fast enough. More fluctuations continue to wreak havoc as more heroes are zapped away, but more take their place, like Green Lantern's Batman Superman composite, which is really only here because it got super popular because the design looks really cool. It even got a McFarlane toy, which I do admit I actually own and is sitting on the wall above my computer right now. The heroes try and get Grodd to tell them what is happening and how they can stop it, but Grodd tells them that these displacements are not his doing, since when he lost Martian Manhunter's power, control over the Omega and timeline energy went with it. Things take a bit of a turn for the worst as Time Trapper and World Forger appear, telling the heroes that they know why time is eroding and they must take action to save tomorrow. For people who do not know, Time Trapper has been a constant over in the Superman book for a couple of issues now, where he's been aiding Superman against the Absolute Universe Legion of Superheroes. And this is all connected to that very thing as Darkseid is trying to invade the world again from his Absolute Universe, and because of it, everything is kind of breaking down and his energy is the one responsible for it all. Red Tornado, who's been chronicling what's been happening on the Watchtower, wishes Mr. Terrific was there, but he's busy back at Terrifitech with Blue Beetle and his past self, whom Ted doesn't think he should be interacting with, being if they so much as touch, the time fractures would get immensely worse for them both. The two Mr. Terrifics don't care since they are being careful, and besides, his intent is to find Airwave and save him. I'm glad Mark Waid is getting right into the Airwave plot right now after setting it up last issue, since it felt like one of those back burner plots that would come back in a later issue or, you know, be part of big surprise reveal in a new event. But nope, we're getting right into it and solving that problem right away, which kind of makes sense as well. I don't think Mr. Terrific didn't want to leave it lying around for too long. Also getting to see Mr. Terrific, the emotionless, intelligent genius, actually have an emotional reaction and care for someone is really quite cool. He's kind of broken that, you know, facade he has of being emotionless and cold and calculating for this one kid. I do feel like we probably should have built up the, you know, relationship between Airwave and Mr. Terrific a little bit more than it was, since this kid is having such a profound effect on him when he barely interacted with him at all. Mr. Terrific is really getting quite emotional about this as well, since he hurls a keyboard at Blue Beetle, getting upset at both himself and Ted for not helping him search. The past Mr. Terrific comes up with a solution, and it's a simple one, but before he can tell Michael it, he is zapped away. Back at the Watchtower, the team kind of get a rundown on the Time Trapper and how he's really Doomsday, just a far future version of the villain who's very evolved. Basically also just catching up the readers who haven't been keeping an eye over on Superman. Time Trapper and World Forger aren't there to fight, they are there to deal with the Omega energy left over from Darkseid that Grodd used to power himself up, since the heroes still don't get how potent energy is and it's not something they can just trifle with. The challengers of the unknown, however, are well aware of the dangers, as the power ran directly through them until recently. As a big fan of that Challengers book by Chris Cantwell, I love that they're still getting involved in the story, even if it's just a little bit of a mention here, that they're still very much part of the Justice League. More fractures continue to happen around this Watchtower, causing more heroes to disappear and Huntress and Marilyn Moonlight to take their place. World Forger thinks that they can fix the time quakes, but only if they are allowed to vivisect Grodd, meaning that he will die. Mr. Terrific, meanwhile, is frustrated and angry. His younger self disappeared before he could learn the solution to Airwave's problem, refusing to take a break until the problem is solved. Mr. Terrific chides himself for not looking out for Airwave more, and he should have seen something was wrong with the boy. Michael's emotional outburst ends up giving Blue Beetle the answer to their problems, since the younger Mr. Terrific was able to solve the problem because he was not emotionally invested in the situation, and Terrific is at his peak when he just thinks solely in cold hard equations. This is kind of very cartoony and silly, and I have seen Michael and his pent up emotions break free story once or twice before this, but this feels really silly, and it's not Saturday morning cartoon silly. The book and most of Wade's recent work has been steeped in either. I think maybe I'm just applying a bit too much logic to the plotline, since I'm not sure how he goes back to thinking coldly on a solution you are already emotionally invested in, because you would start to think about that person again, and then the emotions would come back, and there's no like keeping them out once they're in. It's just kind of a silly plotline, and I'm not really liking it, especially because like the Mr. Terrific Airwave relationship isn't really there. They talk like once or twice before all of this went down, and Michael is acting like he's known the kid for like years and is like mentoring him and just like feels so strongly about him. It's a very strange sort of set of plot lines for these characters. And I mean, I like Mr. Terrific is actually getting involved in the story and actually having his own like sort of running plotline and isn't being just like relegated to, you know, supporting character, but it's such a weird plotline to give him. Back on the Watchtower, the heroes tell Forger and Trapper that they won't be killing Grodd, but World Forger tells them that the universe is currently disconnected from the multiverse, meaning that it's a sealed system and it contains all of the permutations of the Omega energy, and having it sealed in there with that universe stops it from destroying the rest of existence out in the multiverse. Despite the Omega power being contained to this universe, it's still eating away at the cage like a cancer to bone, seeping into the flow of time. Trapper reveals that Grodd's body contains trace elements of Omega energy, and they must be ripped from him and studied. So I said before, Wade had simplified the whole heroes appearing thing in those first couple of pages of this issue, but what we're seeing here with Trapper and Forger and what they reveal is kind of complicated again. I can't imagine a casual reader following on with what's going on here, especially because it's not overly complicated, it's just very word salady with things like flows of time and, you know, self-contained universes and all of this sort of stuff that would confuse a lot of people. I can definitely see it doing that. Mr. Terrific, meanwhile, figures out the problem is that he must focus, but also Airwave must as well, since if the hero is scattered energy, he needs a frequency to lock onto, and to do that, they will use a tuning fork to bring that energy closer together and give themselves something to lock onto. While the tuning fork is powered up, the League end up defending Grodd and battling World Forger and Time Trapper. And finally, there's some really great use of time breaking down and the time breaking down gimmick, since during the fight with the World Forger, time actually ends up reversing itself very slightly, something Forger isn't even ready for. So like he tries to attack Grodd and he breaks the chain of the construct that Carol had around Grodd, but then time reverses and the chain heals itself and he reverses himself in time. It's really cool, a really neat visual there by Dan Mora. Despite not being able to breach the tachyon field Trapper erects around them, heroes keep trying and more quakes happen, bringing forth Jean-Paul Valley's Batman and Amazing Man of the All-Star Squadron. This is quite fun seeing all these heroes come and go throughout the story, and it's just Wade kind of being a little, you know, flexing there, because obviously he's writing the big DCU history at the moment, kind of recanonizing a lot of things and kind of trying to make it a bit more accessible to new readers. And this is him kind of flexing on who's canon and who's not, and who are these big players in that canon at some point. Amazing Man being one of them, and of course Jean-Paul Valley's Batman being one of them as well. It gives Dan Mora a chance as well to kind of go off the chains, and instead of drawing the usual Justice League we've been getting the last couple of issues, he gets to draw some really fun characters in his style. So we get sort of updated looks for Jean-Paul and for Amazing Man, which is really cool. Supergirl figures a way around the tachyon field by smashing up through the floor, commenting how Forger and Trapper should shield the floor next time. Kara is soon rocked by the time quakes herself as well, causing her to split into various versions of herself from throughout years, as Grodd decides to join Trapper and Forger, telling them that they need his knowledge above all else, and if they wish to tame the Omega energy, they don't need to use him like a lab rat. He'll come willingly and give his knowledge to them. Flash warns them not to trust Grodd, but it's too late as Trapper agrees to Grodd's offer and teleports himself, Grodd, and Forger away. This is a real neat pairing that I'm sure is not going to end badly at all, because obviously Grodd's going to betray them at some point. But I do like that Wade is not just tossing Grodd away after using him in We Are Yesterday. he's keeping him around, and since Trapper and Forger are getting involved in some big things, I guess Grodd is going to kind of tag along and be involved in some big things as well. The team are left with no plan to enact, but Professor Haley from the Challengers tells the heroes that he and the Atom might have a way for the Challengers of the Unknown to follow Grodd into the time stream. The heroes get to work as Mr. Terrific's tuning fork works, and he's able to pull Airwave back together and into the physical realm. With Grodd and the Omega energy now gone though, the time crates begin to subside, but the displaced heroes still remain, and in the chaos, several leave the Watchtower to go and explore the world they find themselves on. So this is kind of neat and kind of feels like they're setting up spin-offs or tie-ins. I know next week we do get a tie-in for this event. It kind of bridges the gap between what's happening with these heroes and what's going on in the rest of the All-In initiative. But I do like as well that it's not just like, oh, Jean-Paul Valley's Batman's now in the present, or you know, that Superman Batman composite is here. It's really weird characters like Ace Arm, the Ultra Alien, and the Bizarro Metamorpho composite that is still running around the Watchtower. It's really interesting and fun and wacky characters, not the you run-of-the-mill Batman or Superman alternates. At the original League HQ in Happy Harbor, Batman calls Wonder Woman and Superman, telling them that he made a catastrophic error when they rushed to set up the new Justice League. This could mean a number of different things, you know, from, you know, the League not having very good security when it, you know, let someone like Grodd worm his way in, a Legion of Doom worm their way in quite easily. Another thing, of course, we see recently we saw the Absolute Legion also attack them, or the prelude to an attack that could happen. But I just hope it's not Wade setting up, you know, the closing up shop of this Unlimited League and it returning to a more toned down, you know, 6 or 7 member league, and not just every hero is on the league. I think with these new other heroes also popping up, I think maybe it's going to transition into something else where maybe we get like the other different leagues back, like Justice League International, Justice League of Detroit, like all these different leagues that all these heroes can then be paired off into and be represented in some way. And as well, if that means that we have an entire book with just like fun, lesser known characters like Dr. Occult and Ace Arn and Creeper, and all of these characters get the spotlight across multiple issues, then yeah, go for it, you know, expand out into different leagues. Justice League Unlimited issue 9 rounded out We Are Yesterday with some connections to the larger DC All-In storyline, as well as connecting up to what's happening over in the Superman ongoing. The book did get a 2-word salady there for a big stretch, trying to explain how these time quakes and all these heroes exist in the same timeline now, but overall I found the issue quite fun. It was quite cool seeing all of these characters. However, it didn't really tell us anything we didn't either already know, or could have just summarized from what's coming in the story. And if you're keeping up with what's going on over in Superman, as well as just the general vibe of what the DC All-In initiative is doing, you can kind of see where it's headed. So the epilogue could have really just been mixed in with the final couple of issues of the actual We Are Yesterday event, which at this point ended a couple of weeks ago. It's been at least a month since We Are Yesterday ended, so it's striking while the iron is getting cold. I'm going to give this issue a 7 out of 10.